Hey everyone, it's Anna. I thought I would show how I painted this image in sepia tones for you. So let's go ahead and stamp the image. I'm going to stamp the potted bunny. Let's see. I can show you the stamp here. This is the potted bunny stamp from SweetMissDaisy Designs. And I'm going to stamp the little bunny image using my mini Misty on some watercolor paper. This is B watercolor paper, B Paper Company watercolor paper. So it's nothing fancy. I think I picked this pad up at the art supply store that's local here, but I've seen the same paper at like Walmart and things like that. So you can find it fairly easily. And I'm going to use the VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. This is the new ink pad that I got yesterday to replace my previous one that I let sit for days and days and days with the lid off, and it got super dry. So I'm gonna use my brand new one, and I'm gonna have to pause the video every once in a while when I feel like I'm gonna have a little coughing fit. So if there's some skips in the video, or it seems like there's some odd transitions, that's why I've probably just put you on pause briefly. So all right, so there's my cute little bunny image, and I'm going to ink it up one more time, not on the pot because I can see that's fairly heavy on the flower pot line, but I'm going to ink it up just up top where there's more lines that I'd like to have better defined in my stamp image. And that's one of the reasons I love using the mini Misty so much, is because it's so easy to stamp an image over and over to get a really great impression on textured watercolor paper. And looks like I need a little bit more on that little egg right there. I'm just going to really carefully try and ink that and not get ink on the entire image, just where I kind of want that extra bit of coverage there. Perfect. So now I have a perfectly stamped image. And I like the mini Misty. There's 3 different sizes. There's the mini size, there's the standard size, which is this big. That doesn't help you. It's about 7 by 9, I guess. And then they have a 12 by 12 version as well. But I like the mini one because I have such a limited workspace on my desk, because my desk is always a disaster. And so the mini Misty just allows me usable workspace. So, and that is that. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a clean here. And then you could also leave the stamp on here, and like if you're doing some techniques that kind of fade out your stamped line, you could stamp it over if you leave it in the exact same spot. And you can stamp it over and over again. Like sometimes the chalkier watercolors will kind of fade the ink lines a little bit, or hide them a little bit, or if you're using like some different types of media that hides your lines a little bit, you could always stamp it over again and pop those lines back out. But all right, so I'm gonna get out my watercolors, and this is one of the original Pretty Excellent watercolor palettes, and it's all the paints in this one are like in this pre-formed plastic tray, but I've noticed now the newer versions of this particular palette, they are all individual half pan, which is nice because then you can pop those out and replace the half pans individually if you'd like. I could probably, if needed, pop these out. If one was running low, I could dig out the difference or the leftover and put new paint in there. But all right. Oh, so first of all, I want to, what do I want to do? I want to add some distress ink to my stamp image, and that will help with the sepia-toned watercoloring. So I'm going to add Vintage Photo, and I'm going to use a large blender brush from Picket Fence to do that. It's just the one I have here handy on my desk. It's a really nice size, but most any brush would do, or sponge applicator, however you like to add ink to your backgrounds. It'll be fine. And it doesn't have to be perfect because you're gonna watercolor the image anyway. So I'm gonna add distress ink to the image area, and then this is gonna react with water while I'm painting and really be the primary color in my stamped image. Alright. So here again is the watercolored version. Isn't it cute? So I'm basically just going to use water and just a smidge of paints, usually in the brown tones, a little bit of the yellow ochre, and then once I have the image painted, I'm going to come back in with a pink colored pencil and add just a little bit of pink to the bunny's cheeks and the ears. So I've got some clean water here on my desk. So I'm just going to start painting. Let's see, what do I want to start with? I think I'll start with the tulips. So I've got just water here, and it's making the ink that I've put down on the paper activate. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of the browns from my paint palette. And basically you're painting the whole image in various shades of browns and light yellows. Again, I'll just add a smidge of paint. You can see where on the painted image I've come in with some darker browns and just added a little bit of shadow. So I'm going to choose a slightly darker brown from the palette. I don't know if you can see. I'll choose this one here and just add just a little bit of darkness there just to enhance those shadows a little bit. You can add it up here in the top where those back petals are. Or you could leave those lighter as if they're catching light. Either way. And then don't forget the stems of your tulips too. And then we'll throw a little color here in the leaves too. I love using the distress ink as my base color because then, you know, it's really, really easy to just have a really light touch and not go overboard with too much color at first, in the very beginning. All right, so we got the leaves, or the petals of the tulips painted, the leaves of the tulips and the daffodils painted. Now we can go back with a little bit more brown if we want to deepen those areas up a little bit. Maybe the leaves that are behind, we add a little more brown to, and we leave the front ones without. Here's the stem of the tulip. Here's the stem of the daffodil. There's another daffodil stem. And then this little leaf here has maybe some shadow cast on it because of the daffodil in front. You can add some shadow there. Maybe this leaf has some shadow. You can add some there. This one might have one here. I missed the daffodil stem over here, so I'll grab that. Maybe put a shadow here. Like that. Now I think I'll paint my daffodils. And in addition to just using the distress ink on the daffodils, I did add a little bit of yellow ochre as well, just to give them a little hint of yellow, rather than just being brown. I think that's pretty. And you could even drop a little bit of brown in the back of the daffodil there on its trumpet and just add a little bit more dimension there. All right, we got one more daffodil. And I'll add just a little bit of brown on this one's trumpet. I don't know what that piece is called. There we go. And you could even come back in now that your tulips are dried, and you could add a little bit more depth by adding a second area of shadows. And that adds just a little bit more interest to your painting also. And you could do the same for the leaves. You could add just a little bit more where you find that those shadows might fall. And that might just add to the interest of the painting. I'll add a little more to this particular leaf here. And this one. All right, now I think I'll move on to my bunny. And again, just with clear water, plain water, just go in and activate that distress ink a little bit. And then once you've got like that paw painted, just go in with a little bit of brown and just do the bottom, maybe 2/3 of that paw. And that'll keep your highlight up at the top and allow you to add just a little bit more color where the shadows might fall. Like that. Let's see, now we can move on to the bunny's face. And again, you can use the distress ink as your primary source of color or pigment. And then you might add a pale brown, or I'll use this little yellow ochre here, just to give my bunny a hint of color that's different from the background. Got a little hair in there. It's probably all of her hair. Well, it's going to have to be. And then don't forget what you do to the bunny's face. You might want to do to the fur on its ears. cute, cute, cute. All right. And then I'm just going to paint my bunny jumper. You can paint it like this is the bunny's body. You can paint it like it's wearing a little jumper. I'm just going to paint it with the vintage photo distress ink and not get too carried away. And then same with the flower pot. I'm just going to paint it with the distress ink that's there, and then there, and maybe add a little bit more brown watercolor paint. This paintbrush is a little small for this large area, but we can make it work. Oops, I almost dipped my paintbrush in my my water glass. Good thing it has a lid on. All right. So there's the image so far. You can see where I left more highlights on this one over here than I did over here on the new image. But let's go ahead and paint some Easter eggs. So mostly I'm just going to use the distress ink that's on the eggs as the pigment. But then I'll go back in once this dries and I'll add some additional color using watercolors. So I'll get that activated and then be able to go back in and add some additional pigment. But I want to make sure that's dry before I do that. I don't want my eggs to get all, the color on my eggs to get all bled out. So I think I'll go back into the bunny's paws and add just a smidge more color. Using the yellow ochre this time. Just for something to tie it in with the bunny's sweet little face. And not quite dry. Those eggs are not quite dry. I can paint the bunny's little nose. I wanted to paint the bunny's nose a darker brown. So I'll grab a little bit of paint. And you want to make sure that the bunny's face around the nose is dry so that the paint you put on its nose doesn't bleed. Okay, now I think I'll be able to go back into my eggs then and start adding just a smidge of brown. Oops, that's the same color as the flower pot. Make it a little different. And this is kind of nice because then you don't have to, with such a limited color palette, you don't have to make so many decisions on what colors you're going to paint your eggs. Painting Easter eggs in images I have a hard time with sometimes because there's just so many color options that you could choose, and it's so easy to get totally outside your color palette. And then you're left with egg chaos, like was always at our house. We always had, our eggs were all different crazy colors. We'd get started with the usual colors, you know, and then the more we would dip the eggs, the more fun we would have. We would start, you know, double dipping, triple dipping. Pretty soon you're coming up with all these crazy colors that you've never seen in Easter eggs before. But we had fun. And sometimes we would have green eggs from our chickens or dark, you know, brown eggs, and those are always fun to dip because you never knew what they were going to turn out like. So I'm just going to start adding various shades of yellow ochre and brown to my eggs, just to give them a little bit more interest than just the single sepia tone ink. And once the paint is dry, you could go back in and add a little bit of shadow too if you'd like, and enhance those areas a little bit. Otherwise, it can be kept fairly simple. Okay. I might add a little bit of yellow to the bunny's outfit, just to give it just a smidge of color here. And then you got a question, is it the bunny? Does he just have a little lace collar on? Is he wearing a jumper? And that's going to be super cute. All right. So I like the coloring of the bunny. Again, I'll show you the first image. Here's the second. Cute, cute. And of course, this image has a lot darker distress ink around the outside edge, and I would do that once this dries. I would add more of this dark distress ink around the outside edge. And now I want to see if my ears are dry. I feel like they might be. And I'm just going to go in with a colored pencil. You could do this with watercolor too, but I find that with these really simple little colored images, sometimes it's just easier to pop the pink in with the colored pencil than paint. Pixie, you got to make it. This is a Brute Fooner colored pencil in the color Coral. So there's one little ear. There's two, so I think it's really easy to do just a subtle coloring with the pencil. And then I'll take that same color and just do really, really light circles on the bunny's cheeks. And of course the bunny wouldn't have blush cheeks since he's furry, but you know, it's cute. There you go. So cute. So very cute. Oops. Rookie here. One. Very, very sweet. And then you could finish the card. You could add more distress ink around the image once it's dry. You could add some additional stamps around the image like I've done on here. I've added the number 20 and a couple postmark stamps, and I've added a sentiment down here at the bottom. So that's how you could finish off this cute little painted sepia-toned bunny image. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.